You're now going to reference the title block file to the house file. Before you do, there's one important concept to think about concerning the eventual plotting of the house design. As you saw on the Level 1 course, you must decide what scale you intend to print the house drawing before you insert the title block drawing. In this exercise, we'll assume that the house drawing will be plotted at a scale of 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, or 1:50 in metric. Consequently, since both the floor plan and the title block have been drawn at full size, one of these drawings must be scaled either up or down to meet the plotting requirements. Now in this exercise, we are going to scale up the title block to match the intended plotting scale of the floor plan. In this case, it means that the title block must be scaled up by 48 times, or 50 in metric, so that when the combined floor plan and the title block are plotted at 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, 1:50, the title block will fit perfectly on the chosen paper sheet size. This means that when you reference the title block drawing into the house drawing, as we're about to do, you must change the scale factor of the title block to 48 times, or 50 in metric. As you'll see, you can do this either after or before attaching the title block drawing file. Now, before we start the reference process, we need to take a look at the two methods of accessing the reference tools. First method is to click on the reference icon on the primary toolbar, or go to File and click on References. Both methods will result in exactly the same thing, and I'll do that right now. I'm going to choose the easiest method, which is to select the References icon. Now that pops the References dialog box into place, and we'll see a row of tools here, which at the moment are grayed out because we don't have a reference in place. Now, as an alternative to using this dialog box for the tools, we can go to Tools and click on Reference and open that as a toolbox. And what we see is the References toolbox, which are essentially the same tools as you see in the dialog box. I'm going to use these because it's more obvious when we're working with specific references. So I'm going to close this. Now let's reference the title block into the house drawing, and you should be in the house drawing as I am. So the first tool I need is the Attach References tool, which is the one that is active, Attach Reference. So click on that. Now here's my title block design, and you should find yours in the file list. But before we select that, take a look at the attachment method here. This is important. The default is interactive, which is what we actually need, because this allows us to select the various attachment options. But there are other methods too. There is coincident, for example, and coincident world, in which the reference attachment settings dialog box, which we see down below, does not open, and the reference is attached using either the default settings or those of the last attached reference. In other words, you have little control. The recommended option is MicroStation's attachment method suggestion, but you cannot select attachment options. So we will go to the default, which is interactive, and then since we have the title block selected, we can click on it or select open. Now we see the reference attachment settings for the title block file, and we need to take a look at some of the options here. The model we are using is default. This is the model in which the title block was drawn. We'll discuss models later in this series. We need a logical name, and a logical name is simply a name for this attachment of the title block file. It requires its own name because you might need to attach several other copies of the same title block file, and MicroStation needs to know which one is which. For example, your house design file may contain the entire set of drawings for a particular house. You will want to make several plots of the different details and will therefore need several insertions of the title block drawing. Each must have a separate logical name. Now I'm going to enter title block. That will be the logical name for this attachment. Standard title block will do as a description. The next thing to look at is coincident, which is selected for us. It simply means that the coordinates of the attached file will be aligned with the coordinates of the active file. Essentially, this means that the 00 origin of the attached file, i.e. the title block, is aligned with the 00 origin of the current file, i.e. the house drawing. In this case, when you attach the title block file the title block detail will display in the house file in the same location relative to 0,0 as it is in its own file. Now that's confusing, but you'll see what this means very shortly. The last thing to look at is the scale, which right now is 1:1. Now we could set the scale here for the 48 times for the enlarged title block, but I'm going to leave that for the moment and explain that in the next video. So leave that at 1:1. Everything else is fine. We don't need to change anything else. So now we'll say OK. Now immediately the title block attachment displays in the references box, but there's no sign of it on the screen. So we need to do a fit view to see where everything is. Let's click on fit view. And in my case, here is my title block reference in red, way away from the house drawing. Now this will probably occur in your file too. And this is because the locations of both files in relation to each 0,0 is not the same. Now we'll move that reference shortly. You can take a look at the reference if you wish. Just zoom into the file. We have the title block surrounded by a red border, and the red border is the extent of the reference itself. Go back to fit view. And let's take a closer look at the information in the references box. Note first that the display and snap and locate items are all on. The display option turns the display of the attached file on or off. If we turn that off, the file would disappear. Turn it back on again, our file reappears. The snap option controls your ability to snap to elements in the attached file, which can be very useful. And the locate option controls your ability to copy elements from the attached file to the current file. Also very useful. You might consider turning off the locate option for all references unless you need to copy elements from the attached file to the current file. Otherwise, if you have overlapping reference files, you may find it difficult to copy elements from a specific reference. In this case, I'll leave mine on. The presentation value is wireframe, meaning that the attachment's elements will be displayed without shading or other rendering. And note that the model value says default, which is the model from which the attachment came. And again, you'll look at models in a later video. Now you can display the current values for this reference by right-clicking on the reference and clicking on Settings, which will open up the settings box so you can see how this attachment is attached. And here we can change various things. We can change the names, description, and the scale factors. We'll do that in the next video. You can achieve the same thing by double-clicking the reference file. Exactly the same thing appears. And lastly, keep in mind that when you have several attachments in this box, you need to select the reference that you intend to work with. That becomes very important. Notice now that we have a reference in place, the tools are now available to us.